I'm getting something on the distress channel.
Under the neutral zone in 1 minute, Captain.
Now entering the neutral zone.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Neutral Zone. We have a lot to talk about today. As always, it's me, Josh, with my pal, John. John, how you doing today?
I'm exhausted. That was one long episode, but we are the Pro Discovery podcast here, and I'm going to tell you that was a good episode, despite what others may be saying.
It was a good. I don't know why people would. Think it was a bad episode. They tied up all the loose ends.
Well,
I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I am too, and we're going to discuss this and break it down a little bit, and I think obviously we're going to get into today in our program. We want to talk about the episode, we want to talk about how it ended, and then obviously we want to completely speculate with absolutely no information whatsoever where we think the series could go, and obviously there's a lot of stuff running around in social media about should there be a Enterprise Pike-driven spinoff, and we'll talk about all these things. But I guess, Josh, as we look at the season finale of season 2, I guess let's just first break it as the episode. How did you feel about the episode? It was long. It a couple places I felt like it did drag a little bit. We can talk about that. But how did you feel about it?
There were a couple draggy parts which I can get to in a second, but I thought for the most part it was really good. I thought the space battle was interesting.
Oh my gosh.
The whole use of the drones and the shuttles and everything was, we'd never seen anything like on that scale before. Deep Space Nine, we saw some fighters.
Yeah.
On occasion, like crashing into Galler-class Cardassian warships, and that was about it. But this one was, they were actually useful. They weren't just sort of cannon fodder. They were actually kind of fighting each other and useful. I thought that was really a neat thing, especially when they all come out of the back end of the Enterprise and the Discovery. I thought that was really cool.
I thought that was cool. One thing I wanted to mention, I'm glad you mentioned that, is that when the torpedo hit the ship, and I can't remember what the designation of these things were, they had these robot drones that popped out of the Enterprise to start fixing the ship. I'd never seen that before. I thought it was pretty cool. What did you think about that?
Yeah, with those worker bees, weren't those the same things that were in the motion picture? You saw the worker bees kind of flying around, and those were fixing the ship during the battle. I didn't catch quite that, but that's interesting that was going on.
Well, it tells you where basically, where these little robot sweepers, where they're going to evolve to in the future is basically they can repair ships, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, so that's pretty cool. I think it's funny, just the parts that drag. It wasn't bad, but I think it's interesting that they like in the middle of these nasty battle scenes that they're having, they stop to have these sentimental moments. Like that would never actually happen. And I think that's actually what made it drag. Is like they're you're in the middle of this action, and it's like, well, let's shake hands now and say goodbye, and then Pike's coming down now. Let's say goodbye to him, and the Admiral Cornwall is what I'm referring to, and then of course Spock and Michael Burnham. They have like 5 sentimental moments there. It's While all this battle is raging on across the screen, they're just like, oh, I love you. And it's like, I love you too. And it's like, oh, who cares?
Yeah. Let me break into that for a second, because it was the only thing that really bothered me a little bit, is that they were doing some very good things from the writing perspective and from that anticipation. And the classic was actually from last week's episode, in episode 13, and I think I even have a screenshot of it somewhere, where Pike is giving the Saru, I like you, and Helm's people, I like you, and he's doing this long goodbye speech, and it's very well written, and it's very appropriate when you're having coffee at the end of the day. But in the background, you see the Section 31 battleships are arriving in 7 minutes and 45 seconds right behind him, and you're like, you kind of pick this up a little bit. And it was the same thing yesterday, and it was off-putting, because again, the writers were doing a great job, and the director, Tunde, directed both of these episodes, did an excellent job of keeping everything paced, and you're building, and you're like, this is happening, and suddenly you go to the shuttle bay, and it's Spock and Burnham saying, are you ready for this? And I'm like, dude, let's roll. It's like the countdown's going, and so
right, yeah,
that was a little bit off-putting, and this is where I think the flaw is I think I see the flaw in your logic, if you remember from Sarek saying that in the original series. I think the issue becomes that the writers either had one or two things going on in their head. And this happens when you work on a TV show and you're not, out in the real world. We're the viewers. We're not on the show every week. We're not thinking about the show every week, and we don't maybe connect. I don't have the connection to the characters that the writers do, I feel like. So sometimes they overcompensate because they look at it and think, oh, you're going to miss Ariam. Ariam's such a critical part of the show. I'm like, Ariam wasn't even in the show. What do you mean? Why did she deserve such a big deal? And they did it all last episode with Spock and Sarek and Burnham and this and that. So they're either doing one of two things. They either didn't get the fact that we as viewers never got invested in any of these characters. This is season 2 of a show that everybody's kind of like, on. This isn't Star Trek II Wrath of Khan, where it's been 15 years that we're invested in the characters, and now suddenly we're killing off Spock. So they're either overcompensating because they don't get the fact we're not invested, or they're overcompensating because they know we're not invested, and they're kind of saying, hey, Ariam dying was a big deal. We know you didn't know it because we didn't write about it, but we're now going to make it into a big deal. Either way, I think it shows that there's a little bit of a snag there. Overall, though, this is what I do not want to criticize. The acting was superb in all those episodes.
Oh yes, the acting was great. Yep, I agree with that. 100%.
The soundtrack is so important. As I've talked before, I'm a filmmaker. I do commercials. I do documentaries, and I bought into all of the Ariam funeral, into the Anson Mount goodbyes and all that. Even though I was like, let's wrap it up. There was still I want this. I feel like I need to have this because the series has gone on 2 years now, and I haven't really felt a connection to anybody. I didn't feel a connection to Lorca. He was a bad guy. I liked him, but there's just no one on this show still that I really have a super cool connection with, other than Pike, Reno, and Saru. They're still my top 3, and.
Some of that is because there's so many characters. It's like,
yes.
The Walking Dead, suffered from the same problem. And I haven't watched Walking Dead in a couple seasons, but one of the reasons is that they kind of did the same thing. They started cramming characters in and then killing them off. Like, who cares if they got killed off, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. And so when you have like an ensemble cast, like TNG, any of the Star Treks were an ensemble cast, right? Really, but this was not an ensemble cast. You can't call it that because it was. There's just, there was a small ensemble with the people that you just mentioned and Michael Burnham, sort of peripherally speaking, but it really wasn't an ensemble. Like, there was Geordi and Jean-Luc and, Riker, and there was a core group of people, and that's not the case here. Ariam was thrown in there and killed off, and Lorca was. It's just too many. It's too many people to care about.
Absolutely. In the few of the film festivals and film contests I've been involved in, there's a simple line I've learned from the people I learned from, and it's a line we learn in everything in life: keep it simple, stupid. And it's one thing to build after 7 seasons in Star Trek, Next Generation or Deep Space Nine, where you build up the primary characters, and then as time goes on, you start building some other things on because you have to do something different. But this was season 2, and even in season 1, they got too deep into the woods with too many things going on, too many plot lines. And here's I think the evidence, Josh. I like Michelle Paradise. She's come on board mid-season, and again, can't say enough of how much CBS has really almost wrecked this franchise and has thrown obstacles in its way. Michelle Paradise, I think, was a great hire. She's definitely shown that she is an original series. In the interviews, she's talked about she's an original series girl. And one of the things she said in her Ready Room interview last week was, and this is producer PR talk here. She said, we wanted to honor all the characters in the finale. And that is a polite PR way of saying we had to wrap up all these stupid timelines that the previous producers had created in the show.
Right.
And so, and they did that. They did
it well. I thought they did it very satisfactorily.
We were predicting they were going to go back and reboot the timeline. That would have been a disastrous way of doing it. I said from the beginning, please find me another solution other than rebooting the timeline where Burnham goes back in the past and resets everything. Going into the future, it was a great concept because that fixes the Discovery. It's gone. It allowed them to create this special, we can't talk about Discovery and Burnham's off the radar. I know some people are ticked about that. They don't like that idea, but it's a good solution. It fixes a lot of problems. And let's face it, this, and again, I am such a Star Trek guy. I love Star Trek. But it's a TV show. Not everything is going to be perfect, and we're not writing the actual future of mankind on this show. So it's not going to be exactly what's going to how it works. It was to me a very good compromise to save Discovery. It now puts Discovery into the future. We have a season 3, we assume, of Discovery 900 years in the future, now having to put out fires in the future. It now sets up a potential for an Enterprise spin-off series, which I hope will happen. So I think it's a win-win all the way around with what they came up with, and it doesn't disenfranchise me for thinking, I invested all this time in Discovery, and now you're just going to reboot the timeline and say none of that happened. So that
Right. It's a sort of who shot JR kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think they came up with a very nice solution. Again, it's obvious that the Enterprise team, the Discovery team wants to make an Enterprise series. I think that's clear. I just use some of the shots, some of the things they wrote into this at the end to say goodbye to the Enterprise at the end of that show. And to me, every indication is these guys are really throwing a line out there for all of us to say, please give us an Enterprise series. You built the set, you got the crew there. We like this. Could you do this? And one of the things I'll mention, Josh, about this is it kind of needs to happen because at the end of this episode, it seems like we're at peace with the Klingons. We have a chancellor and all this stuff going on, and there's an opportunity there for them to change some things out and bring in they wouldn't bring in the Romulans yet, but they would bring in, another chancellor perhaps that starts a war with the Federation. I don't know, but there's a lot of questions you could certainly start playing with if you wanted to do a Pike Enterprise series, or you could just, do something like Explore Planets. That would be fun.
I think that Pike is my favorite character in the whole series, frankly. At this point, I like Saru too. They redeemed his character really well. But
Saru was great. I love his quotes from The Art of War. That was great. The little lines like I'm surprised that a Terran would be surprised at anything. That was a great line.
Yeah, I like Spock. I think that they did a great job. Far better rebooting this Spock, than the JJ Spock. He did a fine job, but I really like this one. He's plays Spock really, really well. I like it a lot.
For all the criticism, and I'm still mesmerized by the criticism by the Star Trek base of Discovery, and I think it's just the squeaky wheel gets greased, people. I think overall, though, when you look at that bridge, when you look at Spock, when you look at Pike, they have done on this series a far, far more genuine reboot than JJ's team did. And I liked the 2009 Star Trek, but it didn't feel like my Star Trek. It felt like it was a reimagining, like, Battlestar Galactica a little bit. But this reboot in this set and the characters feels very much like when you look at that bridge, you're like, I know that's the original Enterprise. This is not some kind of Kelvin timeline. I cannot say enough about the visual effects team, the designers, the actors, what they did to bring a new side of Star Trek we've been wanting to see, which was we want to see the original ship, but looking high budget, and I thought they did that.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing. I was excited, and like you said, they kind of said goodbye to the Enterprise at the end. Discovery was gone for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and of course it's in dry dock and they get the beauty shots around the ship and of course Pike is going after going after whatever new moon that they were going after, and it's that's right, this show is called Discovery. It's like, right, I forgot about that for a second.
Well, I don't think there was another way to end this. I think because last year, if you remember, they ended it with the Enterprise shot, and we were like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And it's obvious now as we backseat quarterback this that the Calypso show, the Calypso short film, hasn't really happened yet, but it does appear, if you're going with the timeline, unless something changes, that the Calypso theory of Discovery is where this is going to end up, and it does make me think that they are going to do one more season of Discovery and tie up, maybe do some fun new episodes, and that's where we're going to end up with Discovery buried in a nebula, and maybe the crew gets to come back home. But here's my only prediction about season 3. They can't do a whole lot. I don't think they can bring this crew back to the present, because again, it would introduce all the timeline, temporal issues. So I think what we saw is Discovery's gone. It's going to be 900 years in the future. Let's do a season there, and then they leave the crew out, and they'll live their lives up there in 900 years in the future. Bring me back an Enterprise series, a Picard series. And, CBS All Access has done everything to screw up this series. So I really would love to see them, give them some leeway, make a good season 3, leave them alone. The other thing, Josh, and I'm sorry to sidetrack here, go on, but season 1 and season 2 both had the same problem. And don't forget this, they did not announce a renewal of this series until midway through the season. And again, if you're writing a show, this could have been written as a series finale, but now they've got a new episode. When a network screws around with a production team like that and says, "Oh, we're not going to tell you if this show's going to end this year," that leaves a whole lot of problems with the how do you write this timeline out. And I believe they wrote Calypso and all these things thinking season 2 is it, they're done. And when they say, "Oh no, we'll do a season 3," now you got a whole new set of problems. So I think again, this is why they wrote it the way they did. They didn't want to tease us into a new season. So I get that, but to me, the villain of this show, the people that Star Trek fans should be upset with, is CBS. CBS has really screwed around with this show. I don't know why this show is not on broadcast. And anyway, I can go on and on about that, but it really is frustrating.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. So I think it'd be interesting to see the third season be like how they settle in the new timeline. Because is that the longest we've seen? I think. Like, what's the? I think there was an Enterprise episode where they were like 600 years in the future, something like that.
They had I know in Enterprise, but they only took Archer there for like a couple of minutes. There was the Enterprise.
Yeah, the Enterprise J. Yeah. And so I think, they're going to a place where 950 years. It's not that long. They're going to a place where presumably time travel is kind of a regular thing,
common thing.
Yeah.
And assumably they're in the Beta Quadrant, but of course, what's that? It's no big deal. They're in the Beta Quadrant, on the last on Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country. So they're not really that far out, but it will be interesting to see. It gives you a fresh piece of paper with Discovery, which is what it was so desperately needed. And I'm excited to see what they will do with this. But again, you have teased us enough that we really want an Enterprise now. We're dealing with a ship that is in the past, so they can't screw around too much with canon. But if you just the biggest thing we talked about so much this year, Josh, is I've said this 14-episode arc. It was originally supposed to be 13, and they threw in a 14th. But to do 13 episodes where we're starting the story here with the Red Angel and then we end it here, it's too much. They need to get back to 1 or 2, maybe at top 3 episode arcs. You come to the end of that story, and then episode 4 is a brand new story, a brand new fire we have to put out. This 14 episodes is too much.
It's a long journey, and the other problem is you can't really come in partway through the season and get what's going on. I mean, right. I had a lot of people tell me that they want to watch it, but they started late and they don't want to watch 5 episodes in a row to get there. It's because it's a lot to watch. I mean, it's because there's so much going on in the episodes. That's not a criticism of the episodes. It's just like steak and potatoes, eating steak and potatoes every meal for 3 days.
Yeah, and I'll say hi to our subscribers. I normally do at the beginning. I forgot I've had some comments over the past few weeks where people said, "John, you don't get it. This is how new television's written." But here's the problem with this, and this is where somebody who's in his 50s now can say this to the younger folks. I still watch Next Generation. I still watch a lot of other shows. I know a lot of people are binging Friends and different shows on Netflix right now. That's all new to them. I loved 24 when it was out, but to watch 24, you have to binge it. And I don't have time to binge shows nonstop. And I have to ask you, when you sit back after this show, do you say, I would like to binge season 1 of Discovery, I want to binge season 2 of Discovery, or would I rather just pick off yesterday's Enterprise, Best of Both Worlds, or your favorite, DS9 or original series? And my answer is I don't have time to binge 14 episodes of Discovery. I like picking off those classic episodes. And I think long term, this is where the industry needs to think about this is I don't watch, that much. I don't binge a lot of episodes anymore because I don't have time. And I think long term, people aren't going to do that. Where I think the original series, people still watch those classics. You and I went to a movie theater to watch Best of Both Worlds in a special Star Trek thing. This is where I think long term as a Star Trek franchise, this Discovery it has a serious problem. People aren't going to watch this because they don't want to jump in, like you said, in episode 6 and watch that episode. It takes a commitment, and people don't have that. So I think getting back to shorter, 1 or 2 Best of Both Worlds style scenarios is the best way for them to not only have a good new series, but have people go back and watch it. I don't want to go back and watch any of these shows. I've watched them, and I don't have the time to watch through them again.
I completely agree. I mean, it's I tried to rewatch season 1 before this season started, and I couldn't do it. It's not that I didn't like it. I thought season 1 was kind of all over the place, but it just was like, oh man, I mean, this thing is like 13 episodes long.
Let me give you one more thought, Josh, before we kind of wrap things up today. But this is one of the things that's kind of, I'm going to throw out there, and I think our fans who watch us like Discovery, so they're positive. But this is one of the things I'll kind of say about a lot of folks who have been kind of negative about Discovery, and they sit back and say, I don't like this and I don't like that, and these writers are horrible and these producers are horrible. Just remember, one of the biggest things that all the Star Trek fans have said, including us, is we love Pike. We thought this was great, and we liked, what they did to Saru. So you can't sit back and say these writers suck and these writers are horrible when these writers and producers brought in, I think, a great character this year with Captain Pike. This was a genius move on their part. So if you're going to sit back and be negative and say these guys suck, they don't know what they're doing, and then say how great Captain Pike is, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Pike was a great concept, and I think these guys are getting the show straightened out. Just like all Star Trek, season 3 becomes the better episode or the better season. So again, don't sit back and say you hate everything about Discovery and their producers and their writers, and then say, "Oh, I think Captain Pike's a great character," because those same people created that great character you love. So that's my vent for the day. God bless Star Trek writers and Discovery. Be safe on your journey. We'll see you, I guess it'll be in January or something. I guess we'll see Picard before then, Josh.
Yeah, that's right. I'm looking forward to the Picard series. That'll be great.
A lot of people excited about it. And we're not going to go away either. We're going to stay here in the present, and we're going to do some I don't know how often, but we're going to definitely do some reviews of some what we're hearing. And I think one of the things I'd like to do is maybe pick out some of our favorite Next Generation original series episodes and actually review them as if they are new episodes too. So we'll have some fun doing that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Well, if that's all, John, I think we can exit the neutral zone for today on behalf of Star Trek Discovery, and we'll probably enter the neutral zone again to talk about other things. So live long and prosper, and thanks for joining us in the neutral zone.